So, without further ado, it is my pleasure to give the virtual floor to the Minister of Social Affairs of Estonia, Mr. Tanel Kiik, for opening remarks.
Dear Minister Jensen, Director Skele, ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you all to the 5th International Conference on Men and Equal Opportunities, organized by the Estonian Ministry of Social Affairs in cooperation with the Nordic Council of Ministers and the European Institute for Gender Equality. At this 5th conference in a series of ICMEOs launched in 2012 by Germany, we aim to further discussions on topics ranging from toxic to caring masculinities. We hope to facilitate sharing knowledge and good and promising practices to strengthen men's responsibility for oneself, responsibility for care for others, and responsibility for care for society. Now you might ask, why focus on care again? Sharing care was also the focus favored by our colleagues in Luxembourg, organizing the first ICMEO 4 years ago. Hasn't the topic of men and care been discussed enough already? I personally think that care is a marvelous word. According to the Cambridge Dictionary as a noun, the word care has 4 meanings: protection, attention, deal with, and worry. In addition, as a verb, it has 2 more meanings: worry and want. When looking at its meaning in the American English, we find an additional meaning: help. I'm confident that this provides enough room for discussions in many other ICMEOs and other conferences. You might also ask, why talk about responsibility? Isn't it one of the problems that men already are overburdened by responsibilities? Shouldn't we concentrate on rights, opportunities? In the Estonian Gender Equality Act, gender equality is defined as equal rights, obligations, opportunities, and responsibility of men and women. While equal rights, obligations, and opportunities get attention more often, equal responsibility tends to be left out of limelight, even though sharing the burden of responsibility is of equal importance. Furthermore, I am sure that no one doubts the simple truth that shared burden makes the weight of it lighter and thereby reaching the goals faster. Addressing the issue of men and care helps to address a long list of wider societal challenges. Among them, men's shorter life expectancy, unequal sharing of care between women and men for children, and related impediments women face on the labor market. Increasing care burden on individuals and the society due to aging societies and thereby increasing the number of elderly dependents. Also labor shortages in the care sector. Prevalence of violence against women in private and in public spheres, both online and offline. Standstills and backlashes in gender equality policies, just to name a few. Men should be seen and should see themselves as important actors in promoting gender equality and solving gender inequality related challenges in modern societies. Men should also recognize themselves and be seen as beneficiaries of gender equality policies. So why the focus on responsibility to care for oneself? Because we believe that leaving aside the youngest among us or those who need special support and care, it is first and foremost up to every individual to take a responsibility for his or her actions and well-being. To bring an example, it is clear that it cannot be victim's responsibility to assure that the perpetrator seeks help against his ineptitude of socially acceptable behavior. It is the full responsibility of the perpetrator. But the state has to be there to provide necessary support in fulfilling this responsibility. In Estonia, different services are available for perpetrators. For example, in 2018, social program Internal Security was made available for men who were violent in a relationship. Also, in 2019, the Caring Fathers program was opened to fathers who have problematic, including violent relationships with children and/or child's mother. Individual counseling is available through victim support system. In addition, this spring, the Social Insurance Board opened a helpline for perpetrators of violence through which they are encouraged to take responsibility for their violent behavior. Why the focus on responsibility to care for others? Because believe that both the choice and the burden of care for others has to be shared between women and men in both families and in the society. While the percentage of fathers using a 10 days paternity leave has reached almost 60 in Estonia, the percentage of men among those taking a much longer parental leave has stayed remarkably low, still less than 4%. In recent years, we have made further efforts to increase the flexibility of parental leave and benefit system. Also starting from July this year, we prolonged the individual right of fathers for compensated paternity leave from 8 days to 30 days. When looking at men sharing the professional care burden in the society, the situation in Estonia is very far from satisfactory. For example, only 13% of those employed in the field of human health and social work activities were men. In the coming years, we plan to first conduct research on the specific reasons behind Estonian men's low participation in sharing the aging society's increasing burden of also professional care, followed up by strategies and actions to improve the situation. Why the focus on the responsibility for society? Because we believe that the responsibility for the sustainability of our societies, including ecologically and gender equality-wise, rests equally on the shoulders of women and men. Research and situation analysis in different parts of the world show that this is not yet the case. Recent studies also show that billions of dollars or euros could be saved in the state budget by decreasing the harm of restrictive masculinities in societies. The importance of men's and boys' active participation and responsibility as actors of change for gender equality and their role as co-beneficiaries of gender equality policies is acknowledged in principle. However, this general awareness is often not backed up by long-term commitments and initiatives. Not many countries have yet a long-term and strategic approach to reaching such aim. It is in the interest of all societies that more active approach on this would be taken by states in the coming years. Last but not least, only a few days ago, we made a difficult decision for the conference that had for months been planned to welcome participants both online and physically present in Tallinn to take place in a fully virtual format. While made with a heavy heart and inconveniencing many good cooperation partners, we knew that at the end of the day, it is us who have taken the responsibility to take care of the health and wellness of participants and the community. While it is seriously regretful that the COVID-19 related situation in the world has prevented us from meeting with you in Tallinn, I'm glad that so many of you from Estonia and from all over the world have decided to join us virtually. I hope that regardless of all, we have managed to still create for you a space and environment for gaining new knowledge from research as well as from each other's experiences. I wish you all fruitful discussions, inspiring a variety of action for the years to come. Thank you.
Next, I would like to give the floor to Mogens Jensen, Minister for Food, Fisheries and Equal Opportunities and Minister for Nordic Cooperation of Denmark.
very much, and thank you to the Estonian organizers for inviting me to open this conference as a part of the Danish presidency of the Nordic Council of Ministers. If we want to achieve a gender equal society, we must involve men and boys. There are basically two equally important perspectives if we truly want to involve men. First of all, men and boys have to be partners in promoting women's empowerment. They have to support the end of discrimination of women. Secondly, we have to acknowledge that men and boys have their own gender equality challenges. Men and boys must also benefit from increased equal opportunities. Hence, we need to target initiatives directly at men. For some, this might sound provocative. Can we look at men's problems while women still face the majority of discrimination around the world? My answer is a clear yes. Including men and men's problem doesn't mean that we shy away from focusing on women and women's problems. It does mean, however, that we take the first steps towards a modern policy on gender equality. Because promoting equality for both men and women is a win-win. Women and men will benefit from a higher degree of gender equality and equal opportunities. And our Nordic Baltic societies will gain economically, and the level of coherence in our societies will increase. For these reasons, I have decided to place men and gender equality high on the agenda in Denmark, as well as during our presidency of the Nordic Council of Ministers. For example, I'm dedicated to promoting more men to take parental leave and to include more men in caregiving. I'm also introducing a bill in Denmark to ensure that digital communication from public authorities regarding children goes to both fathers and mothers. I believe they will be more likely to share the responsibility for the childcare if they both receive the same information. We also need to consider other important gender issues for men and boys, such as their physical and mental health, and how we can support boys in the educational system. And last but not least, we need to include young men as well as women into the discussion on gender equality. Denmark, as the presidency of Nordic Council of Ministers, have also supported our Estonian colleagues for this ICMEO conference, as well as an international barbershop event next month in Latvia. I'm sure that our common efforts will have a profound effect. We'll be able to mobilize men and include them into our discussions, like today. But we won't be able to include all men. And why not? Well, we are seeing a backlash to gender equality and a growing resistance across Europe and across the world against women's empowerment. It seems that not all men are happy about moving towards more gender equality. Some younger men feel a sense of loss of privilege, that traditional masculinity is under pressure, they feel left behind. And they are increasingly teaming up online. They meet in a resistance against women's rights and feminism, the so-called manospheres. In October, we will publish a Nordic report describing the manosphere, and we'll present and discuss a report at an international conference in November in Copenhagen. The report will look at how widespread the manosphere is in the Nordic countries and how the debate in these forums influence the attitudes towards gender equality in general. Most of these young men mainly get angry and agitated, but some men at risk of being radicalized, and we have seen violence and death in the wake of this. We need to develop a better understanding of this phenomenon. We need to prevent young men from being mobilized into these online groups that are working against gender equality and women's rights. And we need to define and promote a modern, diverse masculinity that includes all men. You can hear much more about this later on today when the Danish expert behind our report opens a panel. In conclusion, it won't be easy to rethink our gender equality policies to include both women and men. But there's no way around it. We have to move forward. Only by including men and we can truly establish a modern gender equal society. And only by opening up for a dialogue, embracing also the young, angry men, can we seek to involve all men in these discussions. I wish you all a very interesting and fruitful 2 days in Tallinn online. I'm very impressed by how the organizers have overcome the challenges in these difficult times of COVID-19. The Nordic-Baltic region is closely knit together. We call it the Nordic-Baltic 8. And when it comes to gender equality and equal opportunities, we have a lot in common and a lot to learn from each other. And I'm sure you will come up with interesting solutions and perspectives on how we can involve men and their specific problems into a modern policy, as well as how we can overcome the current backlash on gender equality. I wish you all a great conference.